So with the whole situation between the US and Iran escalating recently, the internet has just, exploded with opinions and hot takes. You've probably seen them all over your social media feeds.
First up, you see this one a lot. The idea that with their leader gone, Iran as a major power is basically done for.
And then there's this one, the whole not our problem take. The idea that this is just some distant fight that we in India can sit back and watch with some popcorn.
And the third big one you'll hear is that Iran has just made a massive strategic blunder, that they've isolated themselves and walked right into a trap.
Look, these are simple, catchy opinions, right? They fit nicely in a tweet, but they barely scratch the surface. The reality of what's going on is way more complex, with consequences that reach a lot further than you might think.
So, let's actually get past all that noise and dig into what this conflict really means.
Okay, first things first. Let's tackle that huge myth doing the rounds, the idea that Iran is on the verge of total collapse, just because its supreme leader is gone.
And right here, you see this massive gap between what people think is happening and the strategic reality. It's a huge mistake to think of Iran as being like, say, Venezuela, teetering on the brink of collapse. The Iranian system is actually designed to withstand exactly this kind of shock. See, the key thing to understand here is that Iran has layers of resilience. They've got a 4-level succession plan, which means alternates are always ready to step into key roles. A new supreme leader has almost certainly been chosen already. They're just not going to be foolish enough to announce it and create a new target. And unlike some other places, the public there is deeply divided. There are passionate pro-regime supporters, not just in Iran, but all over the world. We've seen them in Times Square. We've seen them in Kashmir. And let's not forget the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. This is an incredibly powerful military force, and they vowed to launch what they call the most ferocious operation in Iran's history as revenge.
All right, let's move on to the second big myth. This idea that Iran's attacks on its neighbors, like the UAE, were just a terrible, self-defeating mistake. This is where it gets really interesting. What looks like a massive blunder was actually a super calculated strategic move. Believe me, Iran knew exactly what it was doing. This wasn't about accidentally upsetting its neighbors, it was about sending a message that it can hurt the entire world. Just think about it. By targeting a place like Dubai, which happens to be the world's busiest connecting airport with over 8,500 flights every single week, Iran forced a total shutdown of the airspace. And just like that, they created an instant global hostage situation. Suddenly, citizens from every country, including 8 million Indians in the Gulf, were trapped. Global supply chains frozen. Iran didn't need to declare some big war. It just had to create enough chaos to prove it could bring our interconnected world to a grinding halt. That wasn't a mistake. It was a trap for everyone.
And that right there, that leads us to the very real consequences that are already spreading far beyond the Middle East, affecting everything from global politics to the price you and I pay for gas.
Okay, a huge piece of this whole puzzle is a little stretch of water called the Strait of Hormuz. It's tiny, only 33 kilometers wide. But get this, a staggering 20% of the entire world's daily oil supply has to pass right through it, and Iran basically controls this choke point.
So what happens when that vital choke point is threatened? Well, oil prices go through the roof. Experts are predicting prices could jump from around $72 a barrel to over $100. And for a country like India, which imports 60% of its oil from the Middle East, that's a direct and very painful hit to our wallets.
But beyond the economic cost, there's the human cost. And for India, this is massive. We are talking about 8 million. That's 8,000 Indian citizens who live and work all across the Gulf. Their safety and the challenge of a potential evacuation in a full-blown war is just monumental. So you see, this is not some distant conflict you can just watch on TV. The impacts are massive, and they're all connected. Oil prices shooting up, our own people at risk, global supply chains completely broken. It's even a strategic play to isolate China by cutting off its oil from Iran. And it's a huge setback for Saudi Arabia's big vision to modernize the Middle East. Everything is tied together. So let's bring this right back home, because this conflict is already having a very direct impact and frankly, raising some pretty uncomfortable questions right here in India.
This timeline, wow, it is incredibly telling. The Indian embassy in Iran put out its first warning for citizens to get out on January 14th because of security risks. They issued another, even more urgent one on February 23rd. And yet, it was only after the bombs actually started falling that we started seeing all these video pleas from students asking for an emergency rescue.
Before the attacks, many felt it was safe enough. They wanted to prioritize their studies. But once the explosions began, the whole tone changed dramatically to one of pure desperation, asking the government to negotiate a ceasefire just to get them out.
And this brings up a really difficult question, doesn't it? After multiple official warnings are ignored, where do you draw the line? I mean, most countries, including the US, they tell their citizens to leave on their own dime, on commercial flights, and they make it very clear they won't be conducting rescues. So the source material asks, should taxpayers really have to fund an emergency evacuation for people who chose to ignore official warnings to leave?
Ultimately, what this entire situation really is a critical, urgent wake-up call for India. It's forcing us to take a long, hard look at what security and self-reliance actually mean today.
Because war today, it just doesn't look like it used to. We're not talking about huge armies clashing on a battlefield anymore. We're talking about new age warfare, fought with swarms of cheap drones and missiles. You can have the best defenses in the world and intercept 99% of them, but the 1% that gets through can cause absolutely devastating damage.
Think about it. The reason India is safe from a big conventional attack today is because visionary leaders and scientists back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s had the foresight to build a nuclear program. That secured yesterday. But to secure tomorrow, that same intense focus has to shift to developing our own homegrown drone, missile, and cyber defense systems. We just can't afford to be the world's largest arms importer anymore.
Because in this crazy, interconnected world, there are no permanent friends. There are only permanent interests. And as the face of war changes at lightning speed, you have to ask the final, tough question. Is India truly investing enough in the self-reliant technologies that will guarantee its safety for the next generation?